Hey everyone, welcome to the Doctors of Running podcast, where we currently two doctors of physical therapy, talk about the art and science of what we put on our feet. Today, David and I are going to be talking about, or I should say, DJ, in honor of Nathan not being here. We're going to talk about some of the super shoes that are out there right now, especially the ones that came out this year, talk about things that have worked and not worked for us, but also talking about what we're looking for when we review these shoes and what patients and people looking for to try this should be aware of. So, David, let's start with a favorite. Do you have a favorite right now this year? What do you think?
Oh, don't do this to me, man.
I'm totally going to do that to you.
Oh, man. There's no secret that 2021 has been just a wild west of innovation and production of these crazy freaking racing shoes. If I have to pick a favorite right now for my own mechanics, weight, balance, ratio, variability with distance, I've got two on my mind probably. I'd probably say for shorter stuff, I'm really liking the Puma DV8 Nitro Elite 2 right now. That's one of my go-tos right now for pretty much any workout or speed stuff that I like to do. If it's a little bit longer on the roads and I'm going to be doing some marathon, half marathon pacing stuff, I'm liking the Adios Pro 2 right now. Very bouncy, rigid in the right places. It's got just a little bit of flexibility up front and it has like a poppy feeling off the toe off. So it's nice and responsive, but it doesn't feel overly soft or mushy or unstable. Like it's a pretty nice combination for me.
You do that. I've got the exact same thing where for me, like DV8 Nitro Elite has been my kind of go-to for anything shorter, especially shorter workouts, even though there is interesting. I put this on again. It's plenty cushion for longer stuff, but
totally.
It definitely one of the better shoes in my mind this year that works better at shorter distances. And the Adios Pro 2, like I was doing a 10K recently and I was trying to choose between the two of these, and I, for whatever reason, I'm going to go with the more like a little more cushioning here, and it did great. It's not necessarily the fastest shoe over shorter distances, but it's still got the rods there. It's got some pop. It's, for my mechanics, stable just based on all the lateral bias that we'll talk about in a little bit, but it did really well in the 10K. So yeah, pretty impressed. I'm chewing through the outsole a little bit, but that's pretty normal for me. So.
Oh man, that's bad.
No, this is normal. I mean, it's normal. Like I did this to the Adios one that I sent you, so it's not abnormal. But yeah, so it sounds like we're on the same page. Still plenty of good stuff that came out this year. It's not that we don't like the other things. Like I'm still enjoying the Asics Metaspeed Sky, which has definitely grown on me. I am interested. I like the Fuel Cell RC Elite. Not necessarily for me, but I've had a lot of people that I think are going to do well in this shoe. In terms of like stable stuff, I think the 361 Flame is a less common one, but it's not my favorite, but I think there's a lot of people that benefit from it. We got the Rocket X2. We got the Endorphin Pro 2, which, yeah, it's mostly an upper update, but I think it's still going to do well for a lot of people. So why don't we start with the Endorphin Pro 2? Like, David, what are your thoughts on that shoe?
It's definitely one of my favorites of the year so far. I think it's kind of like an honorable mention on that list.
Yeah.
I think we have the luxury of having so many different shoes that come through that, of course, some are going to get left off. But it's an amazing shoe. I think overall the rocker on it, the speed roll design, it's really good. It's really fluid. For me, this is a half marathon and marathon shoe. Not to say that it can't go fast. I think it's important to establish that versatility is relative. When you look at the New York City, that road mile, what is it, the Fifth Avenue mile? There was a lot of those Adidas athletes in the Adios Pro. The original one. I mean, last year's whatever, before the Pro 2 came out.
And they were still running really fast. So again, it's totally relative on each person. And I totally agree with you. I think a lot of people that these shoes are aggressive enough that for most people, this may not be a good shoe for a half or full marathon distance. And a lot of these shoes that we're going to show, they may be better for shorter distances because of how aggressive they are. And there's nothing wrong with using a training shoe or a lightweight trainer for a half marathon or full marathon. You have to figure out what works for you. So David, that's really good point. So I was for that. Keep going.
No worries. I have a tangent of my own later. I don't think right now is the right time and place. Just remind me later.
Got it.
But I wanted to go into like flexibility of the shoe, where the rigidity is in the shoe and how that affects biomechanics and things like that. Yeah. And personal preferences. But anyways, to get back to the Endorphin Pro 2. It is a sweet colorway. That's cool.
Highly
But
controversial. I think we have enjoyed the colorway, but have seen some people who don't like it so much. I guess Dave and I agree. I think it's pretty cool. So
get out of here. It's a racing upper. Like, look at that. You got the checkered flags.
yeah,
You got the little like asymmetrical look going on. That always looks sweet on foot when you're running fast. Like it's eye grabbing. But anyways,
yeah,
it's a good rocker. And then the P-Bax midsole, the Power Run PB, it's still just as good as it was in the original. But I think the big thing with this shoe is that upper security is so much better, and it works a lot better for me. Totally. I feel like, especially through that heel and midfoot, like I just feel secure and I'm able to roll off the shoe. I don't know. It feels better at those transition points for me. I'm landing and I'm transitioning quicker. I'm getting to that toe off. And yes, there's some rigidity here. Of course there is. There's a carbon plate and a rocker design on purpose, but it feels like I'm transitioning fast and then I'm rolling off fast. And like my feet just kind of get underneath me and I can get into that rhythm. And that's why I like it so much at like that half marathon to marathon type of pacing.
Yeah, it's really good for that, like looking for that consistent ride. And I agree with you. I think the upper lockdown has really helped kind of keep the foot on the platform better. It's just like everybody talks about the sole, but the upper is the other half. You got to pay attention to that. I totally agree. And I also agree like that the Endorphin Pro 2 has been a shoe that I am more commonly suggesting to people that are going, hey, I'm having like calf issues. What might be a good super shoe? And I'm like, well, I think the speed rule works so well with the plate that like I strained my calf at one point, and that's the shoe that I was doing workouts in and had zero trouble. And so I think that's testimonial, obviously, but from like a 4-foot rocker replacement, like I think it works really well. Have you tried that with certain patients? So I've had a couple patients I've made that suggestion to, and it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm usually hesitant to recommend shoes, which is kind of ironic because of everything we do.
Yeah.
I usually just advise they go try a bunch on and see what works with their mechanics. And I mean, obviously, if they have stiff ankles or great toes, there's probably some things that might help with the rockers and things like that. But I mean, the population I primarily work with, that is in the running population, they're usually not the top of the top hammering out 5-minute miles for long amounts of times. It's usually the people that are more that middle pack and still competitive within their age group, but they're looking more for something that's comfortable on their foot, and the responsiveness isn't always exactly what they go for. So something like this, I might be more willing to suggest something like almost like a Hoka Rincon, where you have a little bit of a firmer sole. Yeah. Kind of like the bevel, like the rocker's there, but it's not so dramatic that it feels like you're on like a barrel or something underneath your foot that you're just rolling on. Yeah. But I will say the transition on the Endorphin Pro 2, because you're bringing up the calf things. Yeah. It feels so much smoother to me than the last one. I used to notice the plate a lot more in the Endorphin Pro 1. I was like, wow, this plate's actually pretty aggressive for how much stack's on this. And then everyone fell in love with the speed, and that didn't surprise me at all. I was like, the Endorphin Pro it's a great shoe. I prefer the Pro over the speed. Yeah. But I know that's not the most common thing, because most people aren't hammering off that toe off real hard and trying to just go real fast, or they're not as light off their forefoot. And so the flexibility and the speed actually helps them to some degree. Right. But in this one, the transition was smooth enough to where the plate felt much more forgiving, and I don't think it was any more flexible. Like, it just felt like it was more natural through the toe off. It's always interesting to me, because when we talk to, or when we see the tech sheets, you read the stuff on Running Warehouse or wherever, they're always like, yeah, there was no sole change, it was just the upper. But even between generations, like I agree that there were the midsole felt slightly different, both in the speed and the Pro. Not a significant amount, but I agree where it seemed like the transition through the forefoot was better in a way. The first one for me was good in terms of that roll off, but the second one, it just felt smoother without necessarily being more flexible. I think David brings up a really good point. So I was talking about, when suggesting the Pro, people who come asking about, oh, should I try a super shoe? And I'm like, if you're going to try one, this might be one you may want to consider over some of the other ones. But yeah, it's, I know we're going through this, but not everyone needs one of these to perform at their highest level. You have to figure out what you need. I think the Rincon is a great choice, because
It's a light shoe. It's still stiff. It's still got some stiffness to it, right? These plates don't do any really, like, the basic thing they do is they stiffen stiffen the sole down, right? So you can get that from other areas. Like I'm reviewing the Saucony Endorphin Trail right now. That thing is so stiff and there's no plate in it. So you don't have to have that. So it's, again, optional. But yeah, so it sounds like the Endorphin Pro 2 is working better for you than the original.
Totally.
Yeah, interesting.
Hands down. I think it's a step up. Yeah.
All right. So let's go to another one. I want to hear your thoughts on this shoe. And so
read my mind.
So podcast listeners, I'm holding up the New Balance RC Elite version 2, drastically different from version 1. So David, I want to hear your thoughts. Because I'm curious. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I didn't run in version 1. So disclaimer is out there.
Yeah.
But this is a soft shoe, man. It was, like marshmallow soft.
Yeah, it is.
It almost felt better for me. I forgot. I think we did like a 10-mile tempo or 60-minute tempo or something. And like at a controlled pace, it felt better on the road for me. I tried doing intervals on the track and things like that. It just was not working. I felt sloppy. I just wasn't doing well. And not to say this isn't a good shoe, but it's very soft. It's a little bit more on the unstable side of things if you're looking at the collective group of these quote unquote super shoes. It's not a bad shoe. I don't notice the plate nearly as much. The fuel cell midsole is incredibly soft and bouncy. If you've worn the Rebel, just picture even more of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, there's a plate there, but it's almost like it's not noticeable to some degree. Like it's weird.
I would be terrified to try this shoe without the plate. I think it would be like the most unstable thing ever. I think the plate really serves to like provide the bare minimum and make sure your foot doesn't totally roll off the platform. Because fuel cell, honestly, in this is the softest thing I have ever experienced, I think, thus far in a midsole.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was just going to say for the consumers out there and for our listeners, if you really do like soft marshmallowy midsoles and like that's what you're looking for and you want something a little bit more race ready than like say a Skechers Max Road or a Saucony Triumph or Mizuno Wave Sky, something that's like more of those premium trainers where they have like really marshmallowy cushion. This is going to be like that racing component to that style. If you do like that, it's not for everyone. It's usually not for me. Not a bad shoe, just not the one for me.
I totally agree on that classification of going. I think this is one of the softest super shoes out there. I also think it tends to be less aggressive than some of the other ones, especially plate wise. Like I could not feel the plate in this shoe at all. To the point where like a lot of the super shoes, I can't do a normal pace long run in them. It's just the plate gets too aggressive running at an easy to slightly up tempo pace. Where this one, I can easily do long runs in this shoe because it's not that aggressive. But the thing for David more so than me, I cannot do fast workouts in this shoe. I think maybe tempo runs are the max pace that I can push this to, but it really does better at like longer effort, like even like an easy long run. It felt way better than trying to do intervals in this because it's just so soft. It's it's a little unstable for me, more up higher. Like I felt like my foot was actually pretty locked in with like the sidewalls and stuff, but because it's so soft, my hips work so hard to stabilize. I was like, I can't do harder long efforts in this shoe. But that's me because I'm not the most stable. I think a lot of people, if you want to try one of these things and you want a soft shoe that's not the most aggressive, the Rebel version 2 or this, I think would be a very good option. I am a little sad. It doesn't work for my mechanics. I am a little sad that they lost the lateral flare. That was if you still want that, they still sell version 1. The Rebel version 2 has that as well. But for those people that tend to have stability issues, like trying to off the lateral aspect, like I use that with certain patients. Luckily, you still have that. It's just not in this version. This is much more centered now. But yeah, definitely one of the softest shoes that I've tried. And I have the same experience, so I can't push it very super fast. But taking it easy runs is fine.
Yeah, and I do want to address something real quick. So kind of to go onto that flexibility tangent that I was alluding to earlier. I actually like the Rebel 2 for going fast better than the RC Elite 2. And I think a big reason is anytime you're dealing with the midsole this soft and you're kind of sinking down onto the ground, you need to get that propulsion from toe off somewhere.
Right.
And even if it's rigid and it's like, I almost want it to be more flexible up front, like the Rebel.
Yeah.
Because you get a sense of grabbing the ground. It's a little bit more lower profile. You almost like sink into the ground. You can like pull off of it, and then you get that snappy toe off.
There's also a little more. There's also a little bit more. I mean, there's that thing is still super soft in the Rebel, but you still get a little better ground feel that you can go like, yeah, I'm pushing through the cushioning, but at least I can feel the ground enough to actually pop off of it. Where this one, you kind of just sink in, and you're like, I'm sunk. It at slower paces, it is responsive, but I think faster pace wise, it's just not. It doesn't turn over fast enough for some of us trying to push that pace at faster paces. But I don't think that's what this is designed to do. I think this is a long distance shoe that will be more of like a marathon racer, longer effort type of shoe.
Totally.
Or somebody who just wants the like buttery soft, like trainer or racing alternative to something like some of the premium cushion shoes that you mentioned. That's a great classification. But yeah, that's RC Elite version 2. What do you want to do next? All right, I don't have that one, but Regina does, but I don't.
Well, I think it's just a nice little segue from the RC Elite 2 because there's no secret. Zoom X is pretty soft.
Yeah.
It's very bouncy, very trampoline-like, but it's responsive. And I think that's the big difference between the Fuel Cell and the Zoom X. Not to say that Fuel Cell isn't responsive, but it is in a different way. It's a lot softer, more cushiony. It's a little bit more reliant on the forces you put on it and like your own cadence and things like that. It almost feels like with Zoom X, it's like pushing you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And especially like in the Alphafly, you have 40 millimeters of stack, very cushioned shoe throughout, but that forefoot is like, that plate's very prominent. And the AirPods, I don't know how much the AirPod actually contributes, but when you decompress on it and you push off of it, you can feel that popping sensation where I just don't quite get that in the RC Elite. So you have two highly cushioned options. Both, I believe, the RC Elite 2 is actually lighter than the Alphafly, but on foot, I think this one feels lighter. So it's weird. It's like when you're propulsing off of it, it just feels like you're getting so much more out of the Alphafly than you are the RC Elite 2.
That's another key point about going like these shoes. You have to realize, yes, you can have weight as an objective measure, like this is this many ounces or this many grams, but the subjective feel of that shoe is going to be totally different. So subjective feeling of weight is totally different. So
yeah, and then it all comes down to personal preference too. I mean, because it's like if I'm 15 miles into a run, I think I might actually prefer this on my foot just from a comfort. I'm holding up the RC Elite 2 for the listeners.
Yeah, definitely more comfortable
yeah.
over long runs in this shoe because it's just less aggressive. And like I think David has mentioned, hopefully I'm not going to cut you off. I think David's mentioned this, Bach has mentioned this as well. And I've certainly felt this where you go do a long run in one of these shoes and you start feeling the plate at like 13, 14, 15 miles. And you're like, this is starting to not feel good. Where RC Elite 2, you don't get that. And I think it's the foam is so soft, but there may be other factors to that.
Totally.
And we'll throw this down that I have tried this shoe in a manner that I can't totally talk about. But David's also running it. Mostly an upper update. I do like it is the upper is much more breathable than and so for the listener, for people who are listening and not seeing this on YouTube, I'm holding up the Next Percent version 2, which is primarily an upper update, and the upper is just so much more airy and breathes a lot better than the version 1. So other than that, sole is pretty similar. So you'll get kind of what you'll expect with the Next Percent. So
to the next one. On to the next. As
the next.
The
what do you want to talk about next?
Jay-Z once said. Let's talk about cutouts. I'm looking at the Audios Pro 2.
Oh, I knew it. I was like, yep, all right. Yeah.
I don't know. I just saw it there and I was like, Everyone's doing cutouts nowadays, so we might as well
yeah.
talk about it. Is it a gimmick, or are they trying to take weight off? What's the deal? What's going on?
I mean, from what I've seen in interviews, they are legitimately trying to take weight off, and I think you're going to know this better than me because you're 9.5, so you have my pair of Audios Pro 1s, but like I think from what I've seen, there is a slight difference in weight between the two of them, with the second version coming out at a little lighter, which makes sense. They've got the cutouts. I was very nervous about that at first, but I think it works because the sole is rigid enough from the rods, and the fact that the heel is so laterally biased. I think if you land at the rear foot, you're already going to be way lateral. So depending on the person. So I think they can get away with this. And I haven't had any problems with this at all. And I'm definitely sensitive to this stuff. So I think not a gimmick. I think they were able to take some weight off of it. I'd be careful with how much more they did that though. So
I'm just smiling because I'm about to show something up right now, and Klein's going to have a reaction.
please tell me you don't have the Prime X. I'm going to be so upset.
No, it's not the Prime X.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, go for it. Oh, okay. That's, yeah. I get that. We need to snap a video of that. That is, yeah.
The X-Tech 160X.
Yeah. Stay tuned for version 2, by the way. It's out there.
Another thing just with flexibility. I know it didn't agree with you because it flexed through that midfoot like crazy.
Yeah, it did not agree with me. It was still a great shoe. I enjoyed some runs in it, but yeah, it didn't. Yeah, but
it does have a cutout. So
yeah, the Audios Pro 2 does not flex there at all. So I think that works. And I never tried the. Why am I having a brain fart? The
Cloud Boom.
Yeah, Cloud Boom. Yeah.
Yeah, and same thing here. I mean, you see it in the forefoot where maybe they want to make it a little bit more rigid, a little bit more traction probably, but down the midline of the shoe, that speed board's totally open. Same thing, Alphafly has the cutouts up front. They've got some holes and things. I think it's most prominent probably on the Audios Pro 2 because they're kind of showing the energy rods and everything. Like there's an aesthetic component to it as well as a performance component. So I think it's an interesting and pretty cool look. But I agree. It's like if the rods weren't there and the forefoot wasn't as stable as it was, it would feel like you're going to collapse off of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, especially when you're running fast.
What do you think about the rods versus plates? Like, do you feel a noticeable difference or not really?
I think they feel pretty similar. I think the rods might be a little bit more flexible, which I actually kind of like. It feels like it's in between, like say we're looking at a carbon fiber plate and a P-Bax plate. This almost feels like the middle of the two. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like it does. Yeah. Like if I go and I flex it, like it's rigid. But if I go and I flex like an Alphafly or a Metaspeed Sky or the Rocket X, those are about equal, if not more. And it feels like under load, those rods, they feel like they flex a little bit more. I don't know if it's because they're thinner, they don't have as much surface area, but it feels like on the forefoot, I get a little bit more of that extension through the metatarsals there. And then it feels like I'm like legitimately popping off of my forefoot, not because the shoe's doing it for me necessarily, but it feels like a little bit more of a natural motion there. Like if I was barefoot. Not to say it feels like I'm running barefoot, just it doesn't at all. Yeah, at all. But I'm just saying like the toe off transition part of it specifically, I can feel it almost flex underneath me a little. Yeah. Whereas the other shoes, I can't really feel that much. Right. I think the other ones, your typical stuff's going to be much more rigid where you actually get just again, you got to put a lot of force through this for that, but it's a slightly different feel. I also noticed the rods, I don't typically feel those later in runs. Although to be fair, I don't feel that at all in this one. I think we'll talk about this next, but the plate is really well integrated in this. But I'm curious how you felt because the Audios Pro 2, I really like it. I think it works very well for my mechanics. I really like the Light Strike Pro. I feel like this is totally different from the version that I bought off StockX back when I tried to review the first one before anybody else. I really like the Light Strike Pro here. I don't know if it's the exact same as the original or if they changed it, but it's really nice. It's got some good bounce to it without being
I don't want to say unstable, but I think it's just this shoe is set up very well for someone like me, where the lateral bevel, there is a carbon plate in here that is in the rear foot. So it really stabilizes for me. Someone that tends to pronate stabilizes me really, really well. I've had some other people try this on to go, oh my gosh, this is so unstable, which that's normal walking. You don't get that as much running. And then it's such a stable forefoot. And I'm just so much happier the transition off the forefoot is so much better than the original for me. I know some people run plenty fast in that, but seem to be better integrated, but still, I mean, pretty aggressive. That's kind of a later stage, better than the original, but later stage toe spring here. So
yeah,
what do you think about this?
I think it's dynamic. Like how we were saying, when you put it under load and it flexes a little bit, I don't think it feels as aggressive as it looks on the toe spring. Everything about the Adios Pro 2 is all dynamic speed. Like statically walking around, the shoe is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like even running slow.
It's not that bad, but it's definitely meant to run in. This is not a walking shoe at all.
Me is like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, shut up, I'm about to run. I don't know, it doesn't feel great walking or running slow for me, but if I go and I start doing a workout or a race type effort, like it comes alive.
I would agree on running slow in this is not the most comfortable, but again, it's not designed to do that. And I think that's a lot of these shoes are not designed to be jogging easy. So like people that wear these all the time, like, I don't know if we can't suggest that your mechanics may be different, but they're really not designed to be going slow. They're tested at maximal speeds that elite athletes are putting them through. So yeah, they're not supposed to be comfortable. So yeah, warming up and cooling down, not the most comfortable, but like putting like starting to move fast. Yeah. And I think David and I don't know about you, I'll confirm this without assuming this, but I have really enjoyed this at all paces, whether it's all faster paces, whether I'm doing a threshold, whether I'm doing tempo, interval, sprint, like it feels pretty good at those paces, just not so much easy runs.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's like, it's an interesting ride because it's softer and it's bouncier up front, but at the same time, it doesn't feel, the RC Elite 2 didn't feel responsive enough up front.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a responsive RC Elite 2 in some ways. Like it doesn't sink as much.
Yeah.
But it's very cushioned, but it doesn't feel like the foam deforms underneath you that much. Like that's what's interesting about it. Whereas like Zoom X, there's a very clear sinking feeling. Fuel Cell, I go and hold up a Rocket X.
Yeah.
Whoops. I thought the Fuel Cell foam, very, very soft. I mean, I'm not even pinching hard. That's my index finger, and I can indent that thing pretty hard. You can feel it kind of deflate underneath you when you land. It doesn't feel like that in the Adios Pro 2, but it feels suspension like.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, but it feels controlled. Like if you're going on a dual suspension mountain bike down a mountain and it feels smooth and you're kind of like hitting grooves, but you're smooth. Yeah, that's how it feels.
Yep.
But on your feet.
On your feet. So Adidas, good job with the update. Like they totally, again, a lot of companies are doing 2-year cycles where they're waiting to update the shoe and they just change the upper. I know that, New Balance, this is technically a totally different shoe from I'm holding up the RC Elite 2. This is a totally different shoe. Like those RC Elite 1 and 2 are 2 separate shoes. But the Adidas, now I'm holding up the Adios Pro 2, totally different from version 1, although carrying some of the essence of it. It's a different shoe that I think they did a lot better in that. So I'm going to bring up one. David hasn't tried this one yet, I think.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so I'm holding up the 361 Flame. Not quite what I was expecting. The one positive of this is I think that it is the most stable of all of these shoes. Definitely more stable than the RC Elite version 2, but 361 Flame was very curious, and I am honestly surprised how firm this shoe is for the stack height. The one time it does feel good is running really fast. Like I'd probably choose this for like a 5K if I was running that fast, but I think there's lighter options out there. But the plate and the foam is so firm, I think, is those people that want a shoe that has a plate with some kind of like higher stack that's stable, I think this is going to be one of the better ones. There is a lot of room in the upper. It fits almost a half size big. I went true to size and it was fine because I like a little extra room. But yeah, it's also 160, so it's not as bad as some of these other ones. Like that's almost half the cost of some of these shoes that are coming out on.
It's getting ridiculous. Yeah.
On. Yes, I really want to try the on Cloud Boom Echo. I'm not going to lie that I check. And I'm trying to find a deal on that. Yeah, I never tried the Cloud Boom, but I'm super curious about the Cloud Boom Echo. But yeah, some of the prices are getting out of hand. But yeah, for 160, not a bad option for somebody looking for a stable shoe. But just know that it is very rigid, and a lot of that stability comes from how rigid it is. And do not expect a soft ride from the foam. It's very firm. So I think there's going to be a unique person that runs in this. I think it's not going to be able to do a marathon for a lot of people. I think it might max out like 10K, like 5K, 10K for a lot of people that want this. But it was also designed as a workout training shoe. So I guess I can see.
Also true.
I think there needs to be this shoe has potential. I just think there needs to be a little bit of redoing on the feel. It's a little stiff. Like even I think it's stiff.
But could it medal in Tokyo?
I mean, yeah, it did. So that's fair. But I think that speaks also to the elite athlete that's wearing.
Yeah. No, that's the athlete.
Yeah.
She was going to medal with or without that shoe on her foot.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's cool for 361. That's great that you guys have like the shoe that medal, like somebody who's wearing this that medaled. So I think there is potential here. And so I think it's a good first effort. I just want the foam's got to be just a hair softer for the general population. But people that need a stable, like a rigid, stable shoe, I think it might be a good option for people.
Yeah.
All right.
And I just want to go out there, since we haven't talked about it yet, is just midsole composition and what these foams are made of. Because P-Bax doesn't work for everyone. Some people find it unstable, too bouncy, too soft, whatever. Some of them, maybe you'll do better with like a gaseous infused EVA, like a Hyperburst from Skechers or the Fuel Cell RC. This is infused, right? I think nitrogen. No, I don't know.
I don't remember what Fuel Cell is. That's awkward. I don't remember.
Either way, it's not P-Bax.
It's not. Yeah.
Maybe there's some percent composition, but it's not. Or you go to something that's a little bit more. The Puma is a nitrogen infused P-Bax.
Yeah.
P-Bax, yeah.
Yeah. P-Bax? I don't know.
But these are EVA. Like, to my knowledge, this is EVA. It feels like EVA. The Cloud Boom, this is for sure a compressed molded EVA, the Rocket X.
Yeah.
And for some people, maybe they want a little bit more of a traditional feeling shoe with a little bit of the new elements that are coming out today, and that might work better for them. I have met people that have done better in those types of shoes than in any of these other ones we've listed. And not to discredit any of them, I actually really like the Rocket X and the Cloud Boom. Cloud Boom's just a little more shorter distances for me.
Definitely.
I can't really run too long in it. It starts to hurt my foot, but I do like the ride of it. So I'd be curious to see the Cloud Boom Echo, but yeah, I mean, Rocket X is a good option. It's out there, and it's a little bit more affordable than some of the other ones too. So, I mean, a lot of this, you just kind of have to try them out, and if there's a good return policy, send them back, or
keep them if you like them, right?
Keep them if you like them. Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as a running shoe store. If you're able to, I mean, financially, that's a pretty big hit. I mean, you buy 3 of them, it's like $600. You know, that's kind of frightening to think about the price tag on some of these shoes nowadays. Or if there's a local running store that has a couple of them, just go try them. Because none of these are bad shoes in and of themselves. But if you ask me and Klein, our top 3, it's really crazy that we have the same top 2, because that never happened up until recently.
Right. We have very different mechanics. Very, very different mechanics.
But we both like the Audios Pro 2 and the Puma DV8 Nitro Elite. So that seems to be a little bit of a fluke. If you asked just about like 6 months ago, our answers would be entirely different.
But let's we have a lot of evidence, by the way, or well, not a lot, but emerging evidence on how people react to different stiffnesses, i.e. different stiffnesses of midsoles, of plates. And we know already that different people do better in different things. Like the stiffest shoe is not going to work better for everyone, right? That's why there's so many people that love the Endorphin Speed versus the Pro and vice versa. So you have to find what works for you, and that's going to take some experimentation, because even, you know, if you have an expert or like one of us make a suggestion, we might still be wrong, because at the end of the day, we don't know what you're feeling. And there's also a comfort factor, which is one of the most important things, and only you are going to be able to figure that out. So we can help you make an educated guess, but at the end of the day, it's you trying stuff on and learning what works for your body, which is what we want to help you do. We want to we're not trying to tell you what to do. We want to try to educate you on how to make better decisions for you as an individual, not for your neighbor, not for your running partner, for you. And that's, you know, that's what you got to figure out.
Yeah, and if something's working for you and you, for whatever reason, have a nudge to try one of these new products and it's not working for you, have the courage to dish it back.
Yeah, say no.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard it where it's like, oh, the Speed Goat has worked for me for the last 4 or 5 years, and now I want to try this shoe. I don't know, like the Lone Peak or whatever.
Yeah,
it's just not working for me. But for some reason, they really want to like that shoe, and they just keep trying, and then they end up reverting back, or they ask me about it. I'm like, well, if the other one works for you, just run in the other one.
Let it go.
Like, if it's comfortable and you like it, then that's all that matters.
Those are the two things, by the way, where we know in terms of like injury prevention outside of strength training and like not training like let me not be rude, not overtraining improperly, is like, if a shoe's comfortable for you, that's one of the biggest things we have to know, that the shoe's probably not going to influence an injury for you. So like, if it's comfortable, that's probably good. If you don't force yourself to like something, it's not worth it. It's not saying you're going to get injured in something because it's uncomfortable for a run, but like, comfort is key, and we know that.
It can happen. Heartbreaks are hard, you know?
Yeah. Let it go.
There's been some shoes I've been so excited for, and then I put them on, and it was nothing that I was looking forward to. And I'm like, no.
And for us, like, I know people are like, oh, you guys get free shoes, but like, it takes, you know, we're very fortunate to be in the situation that we're in, that we built this up to this point to have companies send us stuff to review. But it doesn't mean that we like everything, and we're always honest, as you guys find out when we take dumps on shoes, and that's how it goes. But yeah, there's plenty of shoes we get, and we're like, oh gosh, I hope I can get the mileage on this without getting hurt. And sometimes we do, and that's how it goes. And so we try to get you guys answers and be honest with you. So yeah, we don't like everything that we get sent, but we try to be honest, but also think about other people that it might work for. Speaking of shoes that we disagree on, I'm going to hold up the Asics Metaspeed Sky, and I want to hear what David thinks about this shoe, how that did or did not work for him.
I mean, I've run fast in it. Okay.
That's a positive. What do you think? I want to hear you.
It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for me. It's a perfect example of a good shoe that just doesn't work for me. And that's just an individual thing. I tend to have a little bit of a quicker, well, I don't have a super quick stride, maybe like 170 steps per minute or so. Like, it's quicker than most probably, but it's still not like rapid fire. But I do like to have my feet underneath me, and I have a relatively light, kind of quicker cadence when I'm going. And it really feels like this shoe like lengthens me out too much. Like, it feels like I land and then I get like almost like lengthened, like I land and then I get pulled back, and my stride, I feel like I'm overstriding when I run in this. I feel kind of sloppy, and the midsole.
That's Biomechanics, sloppy and overstriding. No wonder this shoe works better for me.
But I just like, I don't know. I feel sloppy and like I'm overstriding, but the midsole feels great.
Yeah.
The shoe's responsive. It's lightweight. I mean, it's like, I literally have not put this on since the last time, like in a while. And when we were getting ready for this, I picked it up and I was like, man, this is light. I was like, and it's good foam, everything's solid. I was like, maybe I should give it another chance. And in the back of my head, I'm like, no, you gave it a few chances.
That's why I'm so curious to see. I'm wondering if we have the exact opposite reaction, because supposedly we're going to get the Metaspeed Edge. So I'm super curious if we're opposite on that. So yeah, so a good shoe just didn't really work for David with his mechanics. It works better for my mechanics. It's another shoe that like is not comfortable to warm up in. Like, I do not like doing warm up, cool down, easy runs in this. But for my mechanics, because I have a much longer stride, I hit the ground really hard. It does work for me. It's not maybe the best option out there, but it's a shoe that I keep reaching for because it's consistent. And so these guys know that I'm psychotic and took the shoe on a trail race, which it like was not the best option, right? So forefoot is nice and stable. The heel's a little less so. But let me see. Where's my... So I'm hardest on my left sole, and so there is no other super shoe I can guarantee you that I've gotten to this point. This is my left sole, left shoe, which I normally destroy, and these have like 110 miles on them. And so I got to give massive points to this shoe for durability because there's no other super shoe in general, I think, that's not true.
I mean,
but like to be able to handle this, and David can tell you, like,
I mean, our super fans probably know, but no, that's not bad. That's really good.
I think it's
that's like really good.
Yeah, I can actually still see the numbering too. On
this guy has like destroyed outsoles in like less than 30-40 miles before.
Or David, like I'll be like, hey, I think I reviewed this. I want to send this to you, and he gets in like, dude, how many miles do you have with this? I'm like, maybe 35. Like I got the minimum, and he's like, there's no outsole left. Like what happened? So. Metaspeed, I got to give credit. Like ASICS, it's a durable shoe. You are going to get your money's worth out of this. It lasts a long time, but you have to make sure, like all these shoes, whether it matches your mechanics. For me, because I hit the ground really hard and I have a long stride, I think the way the shoe is designed in the plate, I'm not really buying into the whole like stride versus cadence thing yet. I think there needs to be more evidence on that. I need to see a little bit more, but I think with the length of the plate, for me, it works better for my mechanics. I do notice, though, because I just did a workout in this yesterday, that when I get tired and my stride starts to shorten, it does not feel good. And it feels like the shoe is forcing me to keep my stride long.
Yeah.
So it's just something you got to get used to. And it felt like the shoe was running ahead of me, which was kind of good, although kind of not because I was starting to fatigue. But it's definitely, I mean, like, not from an anecdotal point. There were a lot of these at the Olympic triathlon, which is very interesting to see. I don't think we were expecting that. I think I was expecting to see more of like the Nike fan base, but yeah, there's plenty of Metaspeed Sky, and we're starting to see more of these. So yeah, it does work for my mechanics. I like this shoe best toward the end of a run. Like when I'm doing workouts, I've done intervals, I've done tempos, I've done longer efforts in this. And it feels best when I am like picking the pace up at the very end when I'm fatiguing and slamming my feet into the ground. That this thing moves like none other. When I'm doing that, but trying to do easy runs in this is not.
That was where the shoe felt the most comfortable for me, was when I was slamming my feet into the ground.
So if you're a slammer, this might work for you. If you are not and you're light on your feet with a shorter stride, you're not. But hey, let us know.
I'm wondering if it's like geometry and just the way the length of the plate is designed and how the foam decompresses, because I will say this shoe, now I liked the Adizero Pro, but it did the same thing to me when I'd run fast. And so it's like, there's 3 shoes off the top of my head that do that to me. It's the Metaspeed Sky, the Carbon X2 actually.
Oh, interesting.
I like the Carbon X2 when I'm at a moderate pace, but when I go fast, it just feels like I'm lengthening way too much and I can't rope my legs back in. And then, and the Adizero Pro. Yeah. And I don't know if it's just the way the plate design is, the geometry. All 3 of those are different shoes, like, but they all make me do that, and it's very noticeable, at least to me. I mean, the way my legs are moving. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, it might not be necessarily a stride versus cadence thing. I don't know, but it just, however the shoe is designed, I guess. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Metaspeed Edge. If this is true, then in theory, the Metaspeed Edge should work for me very well.
Yeah, and I should hate it, so we'll have to see what happens. All right, should do.
Are you on the edge of your seat?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a reference to the Metaspeed Edge, huh? Awkward.
Totes.
I might have to switch cameras because I think my computer's about ready to die, which is awkward. It would be super awkward. So let's see what happens.
I mean, we got through pretty much all of them.
Yeah,
we could probably wrap it up real quick.
No, we got to do this one.
We got to do the Puma.
We got to do the Puma DD.
I mean, we got to spread some big cat energy out here, but
exactly.
But I mean, like,
so I'm gonna change
I
my
think-
camera so it doesn't die. Hold on.
Oh,
now you lost.
For the listeners, I don't know if they can see or not, but we got a stunning photo of Dr. Klein over here in a black blazer with a purple tie on a red shirt. I don't know what event that's from. That looks like that was from a while ago.
It was from a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, back to normal cameras. So my computer.
All right, he's back.
Yeah, with the grainy camera, which I would think would be better on a Mac, but I guess not. So that's how it goes. Anyway, so we're holding up the Puma Deviate Elite Nitro, which has been a favorite for both of us. When I first ran in the shoe, I was like, it was so comfortable. I was not expecting that from a plated shoe. Most of the plated shoes out there, when you put them on, they're aggressive. It's not something. I think the one exception would be the RC Elite 2, which felt much more relaxed because it's so soft. But the Deviate Elite Nitro was like, this was such a pleasant shoe to like break in. So I always do like a 2-mile shakeout in these, and it was so pleasant. I'm like, wow, like this foam I really like the foam. It's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a nitrogen injected Pebax.
The same difference, isn't it? Just a company that makes it.
But I really like it. It was nice. This is one of the lighter shoes out on the market. Besides, I think it's the Metaspeed Edge, which is 6.5, the Vaporfly Next Percent, which is 6.4 ounce for men's size 9. This one's 6.7. Somebody correct me on that. This is on the lighter side, but it's still plenty cushion, and the plate is just so well integrated into the sole that for me, this one works better running faster. So like I can warm up and cool down in this. It feels good. But like 5K, 10K, half marathon pace, even mile pace feels great in this shoe. And it's just such a light upper that still holds the foot down really well. I think Puma really did well on this shoe. So
yeah,
what do you think?
I think they knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's comfortable at all paces. It almost feels like a slightly more stable Next Percent.
Yeah, agreed.
It's nice. It's cushioned. It feels very balanced. It almost feels like the traditional trainer / racer that used to exist. Maybe the old school Adidas Boston. I don't know. But with a nitrogen infused Puma midsole, so it's soft and bouncy, but it's not. It's kind of like that suspending feeling I was talking about earlier with the Audios Pro 2, where it's like you can feel the cushion and you can feel that it decompresses, but it doesn't feel like you're sinking. And it just feels very nice and balanced the way you transition from the heel to the midfoot to the toe off. And it's funny because it almost doesn't feel like anything overly special, like at first. Like it just feels like you're running nice. It doesn't feel like you're getting any crazy bounce or push or anything like that. But it just feels that you're running cadence and stride, at least for me and my own mechanics. I just feel nice and fluid and good. I'm not slapping the ground hard. I'm just having a good time. Like it's just an enjoyable shoe to run in. And it's very lightweight. The cushioning for the weight is absurd. It's actually pretty dang good. And there's an outsole. Like it's amazing. I don't know how they pulled it all off. The upper is almost track spike like in some ways, not quite as snug as a track spike, but it's the material is very synthetic and lightweight like, and it locks down good and it's nice and secure. Everything about the shoe is just kind of like nice and pleasant. It's weird. It's not a showstopper. Like it's not like you put it on and you're like, whoa, this is it. But it just feels nice at all paces. I'm pretty sure I've run like 62-second quarters in this, and I've run long tempos in it, and I've done Ks sub 3, miles sub 5. I think I've done like a 7-8 mile tempo in it. Like the shoe has done well in all of them, and it's like I'm so happy they sent us a second pair because like that made my day. I was just like. I just like this.
For whatever reason, I still like this one more than that. Not the color, but like, I mean, yeah, a little bit. But yeah, I've been saving these, and they sent us this, and I'm like, damn it, I should have like taken these. So I'm gonna try to take these to 100 miles and see what happens. But yeah, I totally agree. And my outsole on that's the right side. Outsoles still do going good. I think I have like 40-ish miles on these, so I might have to see how they compare to the Metaspeed Sky in terms of durability. But so far, but yeah, I have the same experience where I run like some of my fastest workouts and pushing in this shoe, and then taking it for longer efforts, and it's been totally comfortable and fine. And so, but it's so weird because when you put it on, you're like, okay, like this is really comfortable, and then it's like.
Yeah.
The shoe is like, I got you. Don't have to think about this. This is not going to be crazy, at least the way you think, but I can still move. So definitely like one of the most comfortable ones out there that still can really be like, it's not the like this like sinking softness that you get with the RC Elite 2. It's not the rigid that you get with some of the plates. It doesn't seem to change your mechanics in any odd way. But it's just a nice shoe, and one that I like have been very protective of, going like, if I'm going to race, I'm going to like do this, like save this for something. But
yeah, it's very pleasant and natural feeling. That's what I'll say.
Definitely agree.
It doesn't feel like there's no gimmicks here. It just feels like a nice, pleasant shoe. And it doesn't have like as responsive of a feeling as with some of these other shoes, but it doesn't need to. It's like you pick up the pace, you just feel good.
Yeah.
Like that's the best way I could describe it. It's almost like underwhelming in the most positive way that it could be.
Pleasant way. We mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah, like it just feels natural. It feels nice.
Yeah.
Like if I'm doing a 5K tomorrow, this is probably the shoe on my feet.
Yeah,
like
I would
most likely.
Yeah. I think for longer distances, I think like, would you choose this for a marathon?
Maybe.
I'm the
I
same.
I got to take it beyond 15 miles. I got to take this thing on a good run. I think the longest I've taken it so far has been 12 or 13 for sure. Half marathon. I think so. I think it'd be fine for a marathon. We'll find out. We'll see how Molly does.
Yeah, that's very true.
In Tokyo, but no, I think it can. I think it can. I just need
obviously for Molly it can. She's done this a couple times. Like, but do you think for like most people, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if the next percent can work, why can't this?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting some of the reps in and seeing how it goes. And I still have to do that as far as a full goes. I have plenty of confirmation for half, but I think it can go full for as long as it feels good. Yeah,
that's very true. Comfort wise, definitely. So yeah. It's funny that we're talking about like there's a large number of these shoes that have come out this year. We're like barely a little over halfway through the year, right? Almost.
Yeah.
Well, almost technically like 2/3, but yeah, there's still time. There's still more stuff coming out, and so I'm curious to see where things go. And we want to mention this again that these are shoes that are really meant for like racing efforts or workout efforts. I know there's a lot of people that train in them, and that if they're comfortable for you, that's fine. I'm sure that works really well. But just remember, a lot of these are designed for racing and faster tempos. So, it's the one we all encourage you, and this is not because we're trying to sell shoes, because we don't make any money off of like we don't sell these individually. And we do have some relationship with some companies, but we don't necessarily make huge amounts. We don't make like, oh, like you bought this shoe. No. So like we suggest these are nice shoes to have if you can tolerate how they are. Some of them are very aggressive, but we really suggest you have multiple shoes in your arsenal for different things. If you're going to do a long run, you may want a long run or easy run. You're going to probably want a totally different shoe than the one you're going to go do a hard workout in, if that's something you're doing. We do know there is evidence to suggest that having multiple pairs of shoes can reduce your running injury risk because you're exposing yourself to different stimulus. I can tell you, David and I, we don't run in these types of shoes all the time. I think we save these for very specific things. Both of us really only use these for specific workouts. This is not a shoe I'm going to take when I'm doing an easy 8-mile run.
Never.
No, we just don't do that. I think you could, but I think the two of us go like, that's not the purpose of the shoe. So why am I going to try to push it and use it for that purpose? So, you may have heard us say that shoes are tools, and each tool is going to work differently for different people, but it still has a specific purpose at the end of the day, right? Like, a shoe, like I'm holding up the Saucony Triumph. Some people are going to be able to use this as their marathon race shoe. David and I are not going to be using this as a racing shoe. It was designed to be a training model. There's a lot of cushion. It's a little heavier. You're going to reach for it when you want something a little bit more protective. Versus one of these shoes, that's what we'll reach for an easy run. But these, no, like the Nova Blast, yeah, for a lot of people, they can reach for that for a little bit up-tempo stuff, but it's not designed to be a racing shoe for people, and some people will be able to use it as a longer distance race shoe, but just got to figure out what works for you. Dude, I'm kind of curious in the newest version of that, to be totally honest with you.
Me too. I like the RC2.
Yeah, the RC3, like, they got a nice color on Running Warehouse. Like, again, not trying to sell anything, but yeah, it's a nice color. Keep staring at it going, maybe.
Yeah, and some people are going to like that more traditional racing flat feel.
Yeah.
So not everyone needs these shoes. That's the reason why I grabbed it. I wasn't just trying to throw a three-stripe there. Yeah,
not everyone needs a carbon plate. Not everybody needs a super foam to perform at their best. So,
or you could even get the mix. I mean, you got the freedom. Power Run PB midsole, no plate training, basically a performance trainer.
Yep. I wonder if we're going to start, because everybody seems to be focused on the plates. I wonder if we're going to start seeing more shoes that just have the foams and don't have the plates in them. But the problem is that they're usually, the foams are so, when you have a max stack height and that unstable of a foam, you kind of have to have that to stabilize it.
You get away with it to some degree, though. I mean, you got Light Strike Pro in the Boston. You have a foam I can't talk about in a shoe I can't talk about yet.
Yeah, but it's not the whole midsole. I think the Boston 10
though, in the second one I'm talking about. I can't talk about it. So
okay, yeah. But I'm holding up the Boston 10. The Boston 10 though, like, it's only the top layer. The rest of it is Light Strike. So that's right. I'd be curious to know what the Boston 10 would feel like if it was a full Light Strike Pro midsole.
It would be interesting to see a Nitro Elite midsole on, like, the Deviate Nitro. You know what I mean? Like, on a non-plated version. Because they have the nitrogen-infused EVA, but then the Nitro Elite is that nitrogen-infused PIBA. So I'd be curious to see them play around with that as well, just to see how it goes.
I think it would have to be a lower stack, because I think the higher stack, it's going to be too unstable.
Yeah, Reebok did that. Float Ride.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, someone did it. I know someone
did that. And I mean, it can work. It wasn't stable enough for me, but I think certain people have stable enough mechanics. You're right. That's a good point.
So there's all kinds of crazy cocktails of these shoes. They're tools. Everyone's got individual differences. Find what works for you, and then go have fun.
Yeah. So again, we're not discouraging you from asking us questions, but when you come to us and ask what's the best shoe, we're going to tell you there is no such thing. There is no such thing as a best shoe, because even for individuals, right? There are better shoes that are going to work for some people, but their needs as an individual are going to change over time. So there is no such thing as a best shoe, even for each person. So you can ask us questions. Just know that if you ask us that one, that's the answer you're going to get. You get that all the time. But yeah. So that's some of the things that we're putting on our feet right now. We appreciate you listening. Please follow us on all of our channels that we have. Olympics is going on, so go Team USA, as David's holding his shirt up. We have lots of different areas you can follow us. We have, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've got LinkedIn. Bach would like to remind me that there's a Pinterest and a TikTok. We also have.
I was going to say, we have a TikTok now too, right?
Yeah, we do.
Do we post anything on it? I don't have TikTok.
I don't have TikTok either. So
you guys tell us, because we don't even know.
Yeah, that was, by the way, the social media platform that made me feel old. I teach a little bit at APU, and some of the students were doing a study on the effect of social media on pain perception. And they were listing off social media websites, and they're like TikTok. And I'm like, what's TikTok? And I realized in that moment, I'm like, oh, I have crossed this threshold where now I'm getting older.
I don't even have a Twitter. I mean, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest. I'm done. It's over.
Anyway, yeah, David and I, same boat. So anyway, follow us there. We've got lots of cool content coming out. We've got some great guest reviewers that are joining us and putting out additional content. We've got cool stuff on the horizon. We've got more shoes coming. We have a new stability shoe page that we're going to be talking about. And we're definitely going to be adding a lot more research-based material and starting to dive in a little bit more to a couple studies that are coming out and starting to talk about, hey, what is the stuff that we're putting on our feet, and what is the evidence starting to say about what that is and what's happening? So yeah, follow us, enjoy it, and thanks for listening.